and I will commit whatever, regardless of happens in the primary outcome of September 8th, to work with whatever colleagues would like me to work with to actually ensure that there's a debate in the ward for the general election. I think it's going to be very important and exemplary with the City Club. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cummins, and thank you, all of you candidates. Now some brief City Club announcements. Today at the City Club, we are listening to a debate between the candidates for Cleveland City Council, Ward 14. We'll return in a few minutes for our traditional City Club questions. Now we would like to proceed with the question and answer period of our debate. Holding the microphone today is City Club Development Director Jessica Allen. Here are the rules for the question portion. Questions that are addressed to a specific candidate will be answered by that candidate with a 1-minute limit, and the other candidates may also comment for 30 seconds. Questions addressed to all candidates will be answered with a 1-minute time limit for each. To the audience, thank you in advance for your cooperation in making your questions questions. The candidates are the ones up on the podium. And state them as briefly and clearly as possible. And now, our first question, please.
This question is directed to Mr. Torres. You mentioned that you have been in City Hall for 7 years and that you lived and grew up in Ward 14. Can you give some specifics on how your personal experiences will translate into success for the residents of Ward 14?
Sure. I believe that the best example that one has is the example of their home. In the street, you could say and do whatever you want. I don't know how many of you are from Ward 14, but you can do or say whatever you want. But at home is where the pudding is. That is where the proof is. I have proven not only at home, being married for 21 years, raising 2 children, raising a family in this environment, but I've also proven at work too. I worked for the Mayor's Office of Equal Opportunity for 7 years, working with minority-owned businesses and female-owned businesses and helping them move forward, helping them grow, helping them provide employment for this city. I resigned my job, great job, to give back to my community, to my ward, and I believe those experiences, those fundamental experiences are what's going to help me be successful in leading Ward 14.
Let's go to the next question that was directed to him.
Yes. This question is for Rick Nagin and anybody else that would like to respond. As a retired Cleveland municipal school teacher, I would like to know how you might support the schools that are in your ward, and there are a number of them. And also, we've had a tradition as a union to meet with councilmen, and I'd like to know how you would support all those efforts.
Why don't we make that 1 minute for each of the candidates? I think it's an excellent question. So we'll start with Mr. Nagin and then go for Mr. Cintron down the table the other way.
We do have quite a number of schools in Ward 14. I think there's 6 elementaries and Lincoln West High School, and they're all in trouble. I think people might have seen the ratings that were given just recently. I think 3 of them are in academic watch and 3 in academic emergency. And I think that the Ward 14 community has to rally around these schools. We have to work very hard to develop parent involvement in the schools and to support these children. And also, as I mentioned in my remarks, I would like to see us develop partnerships with the various institutions. For example, I think that there could be a partnership between Lincoln West and Metro Health with the Boys and Girls Club about health and nutrition and fitness issues that could, that we could work on. And also with Denison School, there's a natural relationship with the art house and the zoo. And so I think I'm looking for these kind of creative ways to involve the people in assisting the schools.
Thank you. And a minute again from each of the others. Mr. Cintron.
Sure. Let me say that I am very engaged with the public education system. My children all attend public education. I'm a proud product of the Cleveland public school system. And also, as a former member of council, I've always was engaged with all the schools throughout the district, either funding them through playgrounds, making sure that there were partnership with businesses and the schools, and also work real closely with the teachers. It is very key. As a proud parent, I understand those needs. I am engaged with the daily lives. I'm glad to see every time I go outside and see some of the students that I used to participate with, they are growing up and say, I remember you came out to the school and spoke to us. Or I was able to give them a letter of recommendation for a job, or a letter of recommendation for a college, or whatever it took. I want them to have that personal contact with me. I want them to look at me as a parent because I have my children attending public education.
Thanks. Mr. Cummins.
Thank you. It's an excellent question. As council representative for Ward 15 the last 4 years, I've actually made it a point of meeting with union representatives of the various schools that are present in the current Ward 15. And in particular, to some of the things that I've done personally with regards to that in office is I've taken an interest in funding the senior RSVP tutoring that goes on at Denison. We were looking at actually introducing at Benjamin Franklin as well. I've met with student government, the youth at Denison Elementary that just formed this year. I think that was a very positive development. Also, I've been very active with the schools. PTAs are now, they're called SPOs, the student parent organizations, because again, involvement directly by parents and even businesses in the community is very important. And I like what Rick said about the partnerships with the various organizations that we have, and that's already going on from Rhodes High School in terms of working with Metro Health and the community colleges.
Thanks, Mr. D'Amico.
Thank you for the question. I believe that the parents need to be more involved with their children. These schools are not a place to send your kids to be babysat. The children of these schools are the future of the city of Cleveland and the future of Ward 14. And something needs to be done. I don't know what at this point, but the parents definitely have to get more involved. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Torres.
Well, coming from a house where both my parents worked for the Board of Education and retired from the board, my aunt worked at Lincoln Junior. Personally, I've given back through junior achievement. I go to the schools as not part of my job, but as part of my civic duty. It's imperative that we do hold people accountable in our neighborhoods to say, hey, why weren't you at open house? Why didn't you go pick up your child's report card? But on the other side of that, we also have to tell the administration that, hey, people work. You can't have a PTA meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and expect people to participate. So we have to have a dialogue. We have to have communication. And I will use the bully pulpit if I must. I will speak, stand up, and represent my community. I will stand up and represent Lincoln Jr. or Luis Munoz Marin, as it's known currently. I will stand up and voice the needs of the community and say enough is enough, and definitely reach out to those business owners to try to create those relationships that are needed to partner with the schools and
Thank you.
And
next question, Jessica.
Good afternoon. Throughout the United States, we have seen so many loss of young life because of violent crime. As people that be dealing with in the street, you know, I've seen this bad news, okay? And what you are saying, when you get elected, this is for all of you, okay? To see that implementation of social program to keep these kids away from crime and drugs.
Question on crime for all of you. Let's start with Mr. Torres and come back up the table this way.
Well, I'll try and keep it short. 1 minute. What I would do is work with the police at 2nd District. I will definitely have those conversations. Recently, we've heard of 13 guns in 13 weeks coming off the streets in Ward 18. Why can't we do that in Ward 14? It's a matter of leadership. It's a matter of caring and compassion and saying, hey, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to hold you accountable because people are going to hold us accountable. So I'm going to go to the police and hold them accountable and say, hey, what did you do with our resources?